Imagine scoring like 79% of your entire team's runs in a World Cup match. I mean, it shouldn't even be mathematically possible in a game with 11 players on a side.
Right, yeah, because the algorithms that predict win probabilities, they're all built on the law of averages, on the idea that a whole team contributes.
Exactly. But today, we're unpacking a masterclass that didn't just break the opposing team, it completely shattered the algorithm. Welcome to this deep dive.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a wild one today.
It really is, because our mission today, for you listening, is to explore this singular, just awe-inspiring athletic performance from the Sri Lanka versus Ireland women's T20 World Cup clash.
Which was, I mean, an absolute demolition. Sri Lanka chased down a target of 130 with 27 balls to spare, winning by 9 wickets.
Which is a massive margin in T20 cricket.
Oh, huge. You only have limited number of overs. So finishing a game with more than 4 overs left in the bank, it's not just a win, it's a total dismantling of the opponent's bowling attack.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the story here goes way beyond just, a team winning a group stage match.
Yeah, it's really the story of one person.
Exactly. Sri Lanka's captain, Chamari Athapaththu, basically putting an entire nation's tournament hopes right on her back. We really have to deconstruct this innings, because she scored an unbeaten 106 runs off just 61 balls.
Right, and it was her 4th T20 international century. But the context here is everything.
Yeah.
This was her first ever in a World Cup.
Oh, wow. First one.
Yeah. Delivering that kind of milestone when your team is like teetering on the edge of elimination, I mean, that takes a very specific kind of nerve.
And the volume of her contribution is what I just can't get over. Like, scoring 79% of the total runs.
It's absurd.
If we translate that to basketball, it'd be like one player dropping 80 points in a 100-point game, while the rest of the team just stands there and passes them the ball.
That's actually a really good analogy.
Right. And you'd think the opposing captain could just, surround her with fielders. How does a team even begin to set a field for one single player who's dictating almost 80% of the offense?
Well, what's fascinating here is that traditional field setting, it relies on a batter having a weakness or, a preferred zone.
Okay.
Like, if a batter favors the leg side, you pack your boundary riders over there to cut off the easy runs. But Athapaththu, she made the fielders completely redundant.
Because she was just hitting everywhere.
Exactly. She was turning good, straight deliveries into inside-out cover drives. I mean, she hit her very first ball perfectly through the cover region.
Just right out of the gate.
Yeah. And in the power play, those first 6 overs where you can only have 2 players outside the inner circle, she exploited those gaps so ruthlessly. She hit 8 boundaries just in that phase.
She totally neutralized Ireland's primary weapon, too. Orla Prendergast was, like, the only Irish bowler who managed to make any sort of breakthrough, right?
Yeah, she took the wicket of the opening batter, Imesha Dulani.
Right, but then when Athapaththu was on strike, she just treated Prendergast like a bowling machine.
She really did. And it wasn't just mindless swinging either. She targeted the square leg, the cover, the straight section.
It's just all over.
When you have a batter hitting 360 degrees like that, you literally run out of fielders. Prendergast tried to adjust her pace, to disrupt her timing, but Athapaththu just kept monopolizing the strike.
And she didn't slow down at all. Even when the pitch slowed up as the game went on, her bat speed, didn't dip at all. She hit 50 off 29 balls.
Yeah, the pacing was relentless.
There is this one specific shot that I think highlights the sheer audacity of this innings.
Right.
In the 9th over, she hit her career's 100th slog-swept 6 off Cara Murray.
That is an insane statistic. 100 slog-swept 6s.
For anyone listening who hasn't tried to hit a cricket ball, what makes the slog sweep such a ridiculously difficult weapon to use in, a World Cup chase?
Oh, the biomechanics of a slog sweep are incredibly demanding. You're basically dropping down onto one knee, tracking a ball that's spinning or bouncing, and heaving your bat horizontally across the line of that delivery.
Which sounds terrifying.
It is. You're trying to launch it over the leg side boundary. It takes immense hand-eye coordination. Like, if you misjudge the bounce by a millimeter, you're either getting bowled out or just popping up an easy catch.
Wow.
So to pull that out as your go-to weapon and hit your 100th career 6 with it during a must-win game, it shows a level of confidence that honestly borders on arrogance.
That physical dominance is staggering, but you don't play with that level of unfiltered ruthlessness by accident.
No, definitely not.
The physical stats tell us what she did, but the psychology behind it explains why. Because before this demolition of Ireland, Sri Lanka had suffered a really depressing defeat to the West Indies.
A brutal loss, yeah.
And following that loss, Athapaththu stood in front of the press and explicitly called herself a failure.
She did. She was incredibly harsh on herself publicly.
Now, I have to push back on this concept of leadership for a second. If a CEO of a company or a national team captain stands up in a press conference and labels themselves a failure, doesn't that usually send like a shockwave of panic through the organization?
You would think so, yeah.
The captain is supposed to be the stoic rock, right? How does a public expression of depression or self-doubt not completely demoralize the rest of the dressing room?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, her statement wasn't actually about self-doubt. It was about extreme, almost radical accountability.
Oh,
You
interesting.
really have to understand her legacy. I mean, she is the only captain to ever guide Sri Lanka to a victory in the Asia Cup.
Yeah.
But she had never taken them to a World Cup semifinal.
So she was carrying, what, a decade of baggage into that press conference?
Exactly. The entire nation's expectation was resting squarely on her shoulders. By stepping up to the mic, absorbing all the blame for the West Indies loss, and using the word failure to describe herself, she effectively created a shield for her team.
Wait, so she was taking the heat on purpose?
Yeah, she took the media scrutiny, the fan anger, the whole psychological burden entirely onto herself. Her teammates were suddenly free from the crosshairs.
Wow, that's leadership by total absorption. She turns herself into a lightning rod so her younger players can just focus on breathing.
She took the hit verbally, and then she took it upon herself to physically right the ship against Ireland.
But, to fully appreciate Athapaththu turning off the pressure cooker, we have to look at the pressure cooker itself.
Oh, absolutely.
We can't talk about Sri Lanka's brilliance without understanding the sheer nightmare that Ireland had to recover from in the first innings. We are looking at a real tale of two captains here.
The contrast couldn't be starker. While Athapaththu came out swinging freely later on, Ireland's captain, Gaby Lewis, she was forced to play a completely different sport from the moment she walked out there.
Ireland's opening was just a disaster. They lost 2 wickets almost instantly, and they didn't score a single run off the bat until the 14th ball of the innings.
Just brutal.
Imagine that for a second. Trying to score 130 runs after getting absolute zero off the bat for over 2 full overs. It's like trying to win a 100-meter sprint after sleeping through the starting pistol.
Yeah, and it forces a complete rewrite of whatever tactical blueprint you discussed in the dressing room. You can't play your natural, expansive game anymore.
Right, you're just surviving.
You're instantly shoved into survival mode. Gaby Lewis had to walk in and completely anchor the innings from the rubble of that start.
She managed to score 59 off 50 balls, which, under those circumstances, is just a heroic portrait of endurance.
Truly heroic.
She finally found some timing after Rebecca Stokell fell in the 5th over. Stokell had tried to break the pressure, trying to startle Sri Lanka with a few boundaries down the ground, but it was pretty fleeting.
Right, and after she fell, Lewis had to build a 66-run fourth-wicket partnership with Leah Paul. And Leah Paul ground out a really hard-fought 20 runs off 41 balls.
And look at how Lewis had to manufacture those runs compared to Athapaththu.
Yeah, totally different approaches. We talked about Athapaththu dominating the ground in all 360 degrees. Lewis didn't have that luxury.
Because of the early collapse?
Because of the collapse and the defensive field Sri Lanka set, she had to rely heavily on very specific zones just to accumulate runs. Her first boundary was a pulled 4 off the final ball of the power play.
And she kept going back to that pull shot.
She did. On the offside, she was powerful square of the wicket. This is textbook stabilization. She was manipulating angles to survive using the pace of the ball, rather than trying to overpower the bowler.
And the physical toll of playing that kind of innings in those conditions was massive. Like, by the time Leah Paul was dismissed and Lewis brought up her half-century, she was visibly exhausted.
Oh, she looked completely drained.
The heat during the match was intense, and she was physically spent from essentially carrying the weight of the Irish innings for over an hour.
Athapaththu did come in and add a fantastic late surge, hitting 28 off 21 balls to give Ireland a final push.
Yeah, that was a crucial burst. But even she faded in the final overs. It was just a grueling, sweaty effort for them to drag themselves to 130 for 5.
Which just makes Athapaththu later chasing down that same 130, like it was a casual net session, even more astonishing.
Totally.
But we need to trace the cause of Ireland's collapse. Like, why did they face 13 balls without scoring a single run off the bat? A masterclass batting performance doesn't just happen in a vacuum. The fielding side has to set the stage.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the true cause of Ireland's horrific start wasn't just accurate bowling, it was sheer devastation from behind the stumps.
Yes, the wicket-keeping.
We need to talk about Sri Lanka's wicketkeeper, Kaushini Nuthyangana. She's had a fantastic campaign, and she established total dominance in the very first over of this match.
The wicketkeeper is like the tactical heartbeat of the fielding side. They have the only full view of the pitch. They read the bounce better than anyone. And when a keeper is hyperactive, they literally change the geometry of the game for the batter.
And Nuthyangana was doing exactly that. In the first over, Ireland's openers tried to scamper through for a leg bye, which is usually a fairly safe run when the ball deflects off the batter's pads into the infield, right?
Usually, yeah. Very low risk.
But Nuthyangana swooped on the ball, spun around, and threw down the stumps in one fluid motion to run out Amy Hunter by mere centimeters.
Believable play.
Creating a wicket out of pure hustle on a leg bye in the first over, it sets a terrifying tone.
It completely alters the batter's decision-making process moving forward.
And she kept doing it. Later, she anticipated a scoop shot from Leopold. For a batter, the scoop is a premeditated shot where you try to pop the ball over the keeper's head.
Right, it is an innovative, tricky shot.
But Nuthyangana read it perfectly. She moved and intercepted the ball right out of the air for a catch. Combine that with a simple stumping to remove Orla Prendergast, and she was effectively dismantling Ireland's top and middle order through sheer anticipation.
She was operating like an extra fast bowler out there.
Exactly.
You really have to consider the psychological damage that a hyperactive keeper inflicts. It's like playing chess against someone who suddenly controls 2 extra squares on the board.
Oh, I like that.
When a batter knows the keeper is agile enough to turn a routine leg bye into a runout, or perceptive enough to catch a scoop shot before it even clears her helmet, the batter feels like the field is physically shrinking around them.
The shrinking field! That makes perfect sense. It creates this claustrophobia at the crease. You start to second-guess the quick singles. You abandon your innovative shots entirely.
Precisely. The margins for error just vanish in their minds. That hesitation, that paralyzing fear of the wicketkeeper's reaction time is exactly what caused those 13 consecutive dot balls at the start of the innings.
Wow.
Nuthyangana's brilliance behind the stumps built the pressure cooker, and the Irish top order collapsed inside it.
So Nuthyangana applies the vice grip. Ireland manages to scrape together 130, and then Athapaththu walks out and smashes the ball all over the park to chase it down with 27 balls left.
Finishing at 134 for 1.
Right. But this brings up a massive tactical question. Why the immense rush? I mean, Athapaththu was batting with a level of urgency like she was double parked outside the stadium.
Yeah, she was not messing around.
A win is a win, right? So what does this all mean?
This raises an important question about tournament design. In a standard bilateral series, yes, you just pace yourself and get the win. But in a World Cup group stage, a victory is merely one variable in a much more unforgiving mathematical equation, the net run rate.
Right, NRR, the ultimate tiebreaker. Because teams often finish the group stages with the same number of points, the organizers need a way to rank them.
Exactly. Net run rate doesn't just measure whether you won. It measures the velocity of your dominance. It calculates how fast you scored your runs compared to how fast you allowed the opposition to score theirs across the entire tournament.
And coming into this game, Sri Lanka's situation was dire, wasn't it?
Very dire. Because of their earlier losses, their net run rate was completely abysmal.
So winning by scraping by in the 19th over wouldn't have helped them at all.
No, it would have effectively eliminated them. To keep their incredibly slim semifinal hopes alive, they didn't just need to beat Ireland. They needed to mathematically obliterate them.
The algorithm forced them into a corner.
Exactly. They had to chase the target as violently and as quickly as humanly possible to drag their NRR out of the basement.
And her brutal innings actually worked. Because she scored 106 off 61 balls, their NRR improved significantly. It moved up to less than negative.
Which sounds funny, but it's a huge deal.
Right. In the context of where they started, it's a monumental leap. And it leaves the group stages completely unresolved, especially with Scotland yet to play.
Yeah, the math is still ongoing.
But it means Athapaththu wasn't just batting against the Irish bowlers out there. She was quite literally batting against a mathematical formula.
That is exactly what makes this performance so legendary. Net run rate forces teams to play extremely high-risk cricket even when the actual game is already won. Athapaththu had to assume maximum physical risk, playing slog sweeps and attacking the power play to manipulate the algorithm in her team's favor. If she had batted cautiously, Sri Lanka wins the match, but loses the tournament.
Which brings our deep dive full circle beautifully. We started by looking at how team sports are built on predictive models and mathematical averages. But then we watched a human being step onto the pitch and rewrite the equation through sheer willpower.
It's incredible.
We explored Chamari Athapaththu's historic 106 not out, hitting 79% of her team's runs by completely neutralizing the field. We looked at the immense psychological weight she absorbed by calling herself a failure to shield her younger teammates.
A true captain's move.
We contrasted her aggressive freedom with the exhausting survival mode rescue mission led by Ireland's captain Gaby Lewis in that intense heat. We uncovered the unseen engine of Kaushini Nuthyangana, whose hyperactive wicket-keeping shrunk the field and suffocated the Irish top order.
She really did.
And finally, we decoded the unforgiving math of the net run rate, revealing why Athapaththu was forced to play with such ruthless urgency. It's a stark reminder for you listening of how one player's determination can fundamentally alter the trajectory of an entire World Cup.
It really is. And, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder long after this deep dive ends.
I'd love to hear it.
In highly structured, mathematically complex team sports, we are so conditioned to believe the old cliche that a champion team will always beat a team of champions.
Right.
We're taught that the system is always greater than the individual. But looking at Athapaththu scoring nearly 80% of her team's runs, specifically to manipulate a tournament's mathematical algorithm, we have to ask, at what point does individual generational brilliance become so overwhelming that it actually breaks the fundamental rules of a team sport?
When the individual decides they are the entire system, it definitely makes you look at a scorecard with completely new eyes. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep questioning the models, and always look for the incredible human stories hiding just beneath the statistics. Until next time.